Good morning, race fans. Welcome back to another edition of Hell Yeah, Formula One is so back, baby. This weekend was the Formula One 2025 Bahrain Grand Prix, and it was such a contrast with how boring last week's race was. All thanks to tire degradation. Everyone say thank you, tire degradation. So let's talk about how it all went down here at the Race Day Cafe. First of all, the big news ahead of the race weekend that the FIA held a meeting with the engine manufacturers about whether or not to keep the 2026 regulations, because a lot of teams said they were struggling with the fact that the engines need to be 50% electric. So a bunch of alternatives were floated around, including bringing back V10 engines, which I think gave a lot of hope to a lot of F1 fans. But unfortunately, in the Bahrain meeting, the FIA decided to move forward with the 2026 regulations, not just to not upset the stakeholders, but also because a lot of teams have already started work on these new regs, and it's a little bit too short notice at this point. But yeah, no V10s, sadly. Formula One will continue to have shitty engine sounds for the foreseeable future. Also, real quick, can we appreciate Lewis Hamilton's new hairstyle? He truly looks more Italian than ever, doesn't he? Moving on to practice, there's not that much to talk about other than one key thing, which was Fernando Alonso's steering wheel coming off of his car during free practice 2. In the middle of a lap. Just another moment of absolute insanity to add to Alonso's illustrious career of insane moments. God, end this poor man's suffering already, please. Moving on to qualifying, in Q2, Esteban Ocon crashed into the wall and destroyed his car pretty bad. Props to the Haas team, by the way, for repairing that so quickly. And then Q3 was insane, with Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda, and Pierre Gasly all making it through. And ultimately, Lando Norris made a mistake, which cost him the pole, and he only qualified P6, while his teammate took his second pole ever, just less than 2/10 ahead of George Russell. It's good to know someone in the McLaren team appreciates the value of that car, huh? Huh, Lando? Huh? And to top it all off, they gave George Russell and Kimi Antonelli both a one-place grid penalty for being released from the pits before the session restarted, which was kind of dumb in my opinion, just like most things the FIA does, but we'll talk about that later. Now on to the race. Lights out and away we go. Oscar gets away and has to fend off George Russell, who slipped past Leclerc and almost took the lead from Oscar for a second, while Lando climbed to P3 but then got a 5-second penalty because he moved a little bit forward in his grid box. Weird how this keeps happening to him, right? Like, he's the only one who ever has this problem. And besides all that, bam, tons of overtakes are happening all at once, and I can't keep track anymore. On lap 11, Lando was the first one to pit. He served his 5-second penalty, and then everybody started pitting right behind him. And both Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda had a horrible pit stop for some reason. Like, look at this. Red Bull. What's going on, buddy? I thought fast pit stops were like your whole thing. And to make matters worse, on lap 20, Kimi Antonelli overtook Max, and you just know he was furious about that. Welcome to reality, Max. I'm sorry to say, but Japan was a mirage. The Red Bull really does suck. Anyways, by now Leclerc, who had pitted later than most of the grid, overtook Lando and took P3. Hey, let's have an Oscar update. How is he doing? Is George Russell gonna catch up to Oscar 7 seconds ahead of him? Oh. Okay. Then another horrible pit stop for Max Verstappen, and he drops down to P20. Yes, Max Verstappen in P20. What is happening? And then we got maybe the most notable incident of the race. Carlos Sainz tried overtaking Yuki Tsunoda, but Yuki clipped him and tore into one of his side pods, which caused Sainz to have to retire the car later on in the race. I think it was just a racing incident. It wasn't really Yuki's fault, but man, the one time Carlos is finally doing well in that Williams. Anyway, this brought out a safety car, and then absolutely everyone and their mother said, oh, time to pit. A little bit later, Lando made it within DRS of Charles Leclerc, and Charles did an incredible job defending him. But ultimately he had to give in, and Lando overtook him. And after that, bunch of penalties, bunch of warnings, yada yada yada. Lando gets really close to Russell, but ultimately can't make it. And bada bing bada boom, Oscar Piastri wins McLaren's first victory in Bahrain ever, with Russell in P2 and Norris in P3. And for the third week in a row, we got an extremely random driver of the day, Lewis Hamilton. Stop it. All of you, stop it. This makes no sense. Okay, that was an overview of the race. Now let's get into my superlatives. This week's ace of the race is George Russell, the tire whisperer, has returned. Russell had a spectacular race, even though he did not win. He started third, but had a great exit, took P2, and held that down the entire race. And I mentioned the tire whisperer a bit because when the safety car came out, he was put on soft tires with 20 laps to go, and he kept them going all the way until the end. There was also some chaos when George Russell's car seemed to be falling apart bit by bit. And most importantly, he had an issue where his DRS opened when it wasn't supposed to. Because of that, the FIA could have penalized him. I don't think they will ultimately, but they totally could have. But either way, it's not going to change my mind about him being ace of the race. He was doing so good that the system malfunctioned and stopped showing the times in the graphic. Dude caused a glitch in the system with how good he was driving. Also, I feel like we generally don't give Russell his due. He tends to disappear. Well, worry no more, George. I got you. And my honorable mention for ace of the race goes to Oscar Piastri. The way this man continues to impress us is really unheard of at this point. He absolutely nailed this race, and except for like 3 laps after pitting, he led every single lap, so he came really close to a Grand Slam. And he kept his lead even after having to restart the safety car, which would have put him under a lot of pressure, I imagine. I am kind of pissed though that the F1 management didn't show us Oscar crossing the finish line. Like, what could be more important at that time? So rude. This weekend's disgrace of the race goes to Aston Martin. Listen, going into the season, we all knew that this team was gonna suck, but not this much. Holy shit. Lance Stroll qualified P19, and he only finished the race P17 because Carlos Sainz DNF'd and Nico Hülkenberg got disqualified. Lance, our expectations for you were low, but holy fuck. And with Alonso, it was the opposite of Ferrari because he also started on medium tires when everybody else was using softs, but it did not pan out for him and he ended up losing position. And then he also had the terrible luck of pitting before the safety car, so he had to pit again and that just sentenced him to the back of the grid. Anyway, I wish I could say I'm surprised, but alas, I'll have to use the magic words that every Alonso fan has to say. Next year. Next year will be good. And my honorable mention for disgrace of the race goes to Liam Lawson. I'm really sorry to say this, but my man continues to flop even after leaving Red Bull. Qualifying P20 in a Red Bull is not good, but maybe understandable because of the car. But qualifying P17 in a V-carb is not good, especially when his teammate at least made it to Q2, and literally 20 minutes into the race, Lawson got 15 seconds worth of penalties, and he could only finish the race P16. It's just kind of sad, man. I don't want to see Liam in this position, but he's just gonna have to do better if he wants to prove himself. Anyways, for my strategy masterclass of the day, we have... Is this right? Ferrari? I know, it's insane to say, but please bear with me. Both Ferraris started on medium tires, which was a gamble because the rest of the grid started on softs. But this worked really well, especially for Hamilton, who overtook a bunch of people and went from P9 to P5. It's interesting too because when Leclerc went to pit for the first time, he wanted to do a one-stop, but the team decided against it because they saw that Max Verstappen was struggling with the hard tires, so they put him on mediums again. Holy shit, did Ferrari make a good strategy call? Am I really watching Formula 1? What is this? I will also add that if we hadn't had the safety car, Ferrari's strategy would have worked out even better than it did because the safety car came a little too late for the drivers to go on soft tires. Well, unless you're George Russell and you're just a beast. So the team had to go with hards, which was not ideal, especially for Charles, who not only missed out on P2, but also got overtaken by Lando and ended up in P4. Nonetheless, considering how underwhelming Ferrari has been so far, I'm gonna give him credit where it's due. Take it, Seb.
Forza Ferrari, ragazzi. Grazie a tutti, grazie. Grande lavoro, grande macchina.
This weekend's underdog shoutout goes to...
Yeah! Gasly!
100% the best of the rest this weekend. He already surprised everyone by sneaking into P5 in qualifying, which of course then became P4 with Antonelli's one-place grid penalty. And at the start he did drop back to P5, but then he kept his car there the entire race. He finished P7 after he lost positions to Hamilton and Verstappen, but he did manage to fend off Verstappen until the very last lap, which is impressive in and of itself. In short, I don't think I need to tell you that Gasly rules, but in case you ever need a reminder, it's this race. Gasly rules. My favorite team radio is also going to George Russell. This was when George's car was falling apart. His engineering told him, there's a chance we lose the dash, just keep driving as normal if that happens. And then George said, as long as the steering wheel doesn't fall off, which was of course a reference to Alonso's steering wheel falling off during practice. Engineer was just like, I think you'll be alright. Which honestly, if George's car is gradually stopping to function, but he still thinks that Alonso's thing was worse, that's really telling about the situation Aston Martin is in right now. For the best part of the entire weekend, for me it was seeing Oscar Piastri nearly take the championship lead away from Lando. I want to see Piastri ahead of Norris in the championship so bad. I just really wonder what would happen if McLaren stopped treating Oscar as their number 2 driver, which I know they claim they don't do, but they kind of do. Like if Oscar was leading the championship, would they all of a sudden start giving priority to Oscar? Would they actually be true to the let him race papaya rules thing? Or would they still prioritize their fellow Brit? I don't know. But honestly, if the main thing we see this year is a duel between the 2 McLarens, I really wanted to feel like I'm watching Senna and Prost. The worst part of the weekend for me was the FIA. Shocker. And there's multiple reasons this time. For one, they decided to give Carlos Sainz a penalty ahead of the Saudi Grand Prix for not serving the 10-second penalty they gave him during this race. And then they removed it 10 minutes after issuing it because Carlos did serve the penalty, actually. Then they were extra bitchy about penalties this weekend. Like, please, can you let these rookies exist for 5 minutes without shoving a black and white flag on their faces? And they also decided V10s are not coming back. Fuck that shit. And also, Carlos Sainz revealed that the 10k euro fine that he got last weekend in Japan was because he missed the national anthem by 5 seconds. Ben Salayem, drop your location. I just want to talk. Also, notice how a lot of these are aimed at Carlos Sainz, who is the director of the GPDA. I'm just saying. Bit sus, innit? Overall, I'm gonna rate this race a 5 out of 5 stars. Really, it's more of a 4.5, but I'm feeling nice today. Very entertaining, maybe too entertaining because I was pretty lost for the first half. But not as entertaining as Barilla sponsoring this race. It was just really funny to me, I don't know why. And now let's review our year-long prediction bingo to see if we've got any new... Never mind. Nothing new, yet again. Surprisingly though, Oscar now seems to be closer to the Grand Slam than Lando is. And we almost could have gotten a Gasly podium, but hey, I still have faith in my man, okay? Trust, he'll do it. So that was it for the Bahrain Grand Prix. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, you know the drill. And tell me in the comments, what did you think of this race? Did you like it as much as I did? And also, how much did it stress you out to not have the times on the screen? Because honestly, it drove me insane. Thanks again for watching, stay fueled, and I'll see you in the next race day. Grazie ragazzi, grande lavoro, forza Ferrari, grazie, grande macchina.